Hey there, friends. What I've got on the screen here is left over from last night's class. I'm introducing Python to people, and we dive into Unicode, not really to show off just Python, but the modern IDE experience. Like you can have emojis in your IDE. That's kind of new. Emojis weren't part of Unicode until recently. But really, what I want to talk about here is some other scholarship. I showed you in a couple videos ago the Synergetics Dictionary, which is online. And this was E.J. Applewhite's project to sort of document Fuller's unusual use of words and compile them into an alphabetized resource. And that, in a way, is the process by which Synergetics itself came to be, although there was a tape recorder which got turned off eventually. In other words, Applewhite and Fuller worked together, and it took a while to find the right mode of collaboration. But Applewhite was a great filer. He was very organized, and Fuller was lucky to have someone of his discipline to get his book out. Cosmic Fishing is the book to read on that. It was an uphill battle to get 2 volumes that are so hard to read, right? I mean, they're thick. Not a lot of people are going to spend much time with it. It's not assigned reading in any university. But I want to give you a sense of it anyway, Synergetics. It's the second volume, by the way, where Applewhite puts the index. And I looked up remoteness, which was what I was going to talk about, and remoteness of the Synergetics vocabulary. I actually didn't have an entry for what I'm going to read to you here. But that's okay. It's 250.30. And 250.30 is not under remoteness in the index. So it's even more remote. It's like there's no map to this place. I'm going to read a little bit of Fuller and then interject, and by the time I'm done with this passage, we'll probably be done. I also have teleology on the screen, and I might switch between those a little bit. Like I could go back a card, and there's some teleology. So if you're hungry for some of this stuff, just pause the YouTube and you can read all kinds of stuff. Like I stuffed my YouTubes with stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is read this passage, which is remoteness of Synergetics vocabulary. So here's Fuller writing. When one makes discoveries that, to the best of one's knowledge and wide inquiry, seem to be utterly new, problems arise regarding the appropriate nomenclature and description of what is being discovered, as well as problems of invention relating to symbolic economy and lucidity. As a consequence, I found myself inventing an increasingly larger descriptive vocabulary, which evolved as the simplest, least ambiguous method of recounting the paraphernalia and strategies of the live scenario of all my relevant experiences. So he's clearly just writing in pure Bucky ease. He wants us to savor his way of using language, which is a little bit odd, but I would say precise. For many years, my vocabulary was utterly foreign to the semantics of all the other sciences. I drew heavily on the dictionary for good and unambiguous terms to identify the multiplying nuances of my discoveries. In the meanwhile, the whole field of science was evolving rapidly in the new fields of quantum mechanics, electronics, and nuclear exploration, inducing a gradual evolution in scientific language. In recent years, I find my experiential mathematics vocabulary an emerging traffic pattern with the language trends of the other sciences, particularly physics. Often, however, the particular new words chosen by others would identify phenomena other than that which I identify with the same words. As the others were unaware of my offbeat work, I had to determine for myself which of the phenomena involved had most logical claim to the names involved. I always conceded to the other scientists, of course, unbeknownst to them, when they seemed to have prior or more valid claims. I would then invent or select appropriate but unused names for the phenomena I had discovered. So interesting, because what he comes away with in Synergetics is alternative, I would say, uses of a lot of the key words that we use in physics, like gravity, radiation, teleology, which is used by religions. He's going to totally change the meaning of words and for him, and kind of create a private language. Another thing I wanted to mention, by the way, in the duck rabbit realm, I've been connecting to Wittgenstein and talking about how it's a new perception to see the unit volume tetrahedron of edges 1. That takes a revamp of one's mental model of powering, second and third powering. And I relate that to the duck rabbit, but the Wittgenstein duck rabbit, another place to put that duck rabbit is in the in-stairs, out-stairs meme. Fuller was always telling audiences, as you go outstairs, like you're in a fire escape, or you're in the where you have to run up or down a lot of floors in one of those tall buildings, you're really going out towards space or in towards the center of the earth when you do that. It's not up and down. That gives you the picture of a flat plane forever with up and down. He wanted you to understand diverging away from, out, going out into the space around the earth, or in towards the middle. That's what you're doing on the stairs. That's what you're doing in an airplane when you land. You come in for landing, he would say. So, and then he would assert that if you would consistently think this way, your perceptions would actually change. Like language leads the way or bars the way, depending. Language is important. So duck rabbit there. I would then invent or select blah, blah, blah. Okay, but I held to my own claim when I found it to be eminently warranted, or when the phenomena of other claimants were ill described by that term. Claim makes me think of golds and gold claims and stuff. It sounds like miners. For example, that was me interjecting. For example, quantum mechanics came many years after I did to employ the term spin. The physicists assured me that their use of the word did not involve any phenomena that truly spun. Spin was only a convenient word for accounting certain unique energy behaviors in investments. My use of the term was to describe a direct observation of an experimentally demonstrable inherent spinability and unique magnitudes of rotation of an actually spinning phenomenon, whose next fractional rotations were induced by the always co-occurring generalized a priori environmental conditions within which the spinnable phenomenon occurred. So there he's like unfurling his full language. It's like, look how I can talk about spin. Woo, I've got this eloquence here to just blah blah about spin. Now, most people, they write it down as math or something. They don't try to go on at length in paragraphs. We read quaint old math books about adding, where they tell you in excruciating detail in prose all that, how to do adding or whatever. But, we've got symbols for that. But Fuller, he's into prose. In recent years, spin is beginning to be recognized by the physicists themselves as also inadvertently identifying a conceptually spinnable phenomenon. In fact, the same fundamental phenomenon I had identified much earlier when I first chose to use the word spin to describe that which was experimentally disclosed as being inherently spinnable. There appears to be an increasing convergence of scientific explorations in general and of epistemology and semantics in particular with my own exploratory evolutionary development. All right, starting to make mistakes there. That's plenty of reading. But what I get from that, in a way, is that he's playing around with the whole idea of spin. Like, I had my spin on spin, and then the physicists came along with the spin that their spin wasn't spin. But now they're beginning to see that when I talk about spin, they know what I mean the same way they do. Like, spin is spin, right? Like spin doctor. Fuller's a great spin doctor. He's taking words and spinning them his way. Now, how deeply we want to follow him into his private language, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I have gone. I drank some of the Kool-Aid, but I still have a jug, I'd say, that I haven't finished. Something to that effect. I don't grasp and totally think all of Fuller's thoughts, but then I work in the humanities, and we're not expected to do that. When we read Heidegger, we're not becoming clones of Heidegger. We are reading critically to the best of our ability. So I do that, with Fuller and continue to get stuff out of it. But I don't thereby become like a guru on, like, I'm not ready for the Perimeter Institute or something. I'm not some kind of quantum mechanics guru who knows all about Bell's theorem, entanglement, and all the most up-to-date theories about multiverse and dark energy. Synergetics doesn't have dark energy. It has negative universe. We can talk about that in another video. But it is, although convergent with the way we talk in the sciences, as I think I've shown here, it comes from a different place, and it's just that. It's convergent without being synonymous. So let's not confuse synergetics with like CERN quantum style mechanics, right? Even though it uses the word quantum and has meaning for that, there is, the quantum modules and so forth. That, they're quantized, they're discrete, and there is the whole discussion, is nature using pi? To me, that's just code for this discussion we've had for a long time as to whether nature boils down to discrete or continuous phenomena. If discrete, then you don't need all those digits of pi, do you? Because there's nothing that precise, energy-wise, to do. So that's a sophisticated conversation that lots of people have. You don't have to include Fuller in that. But he was just wedging his 2 cents in a well-known, well-worn path on that score. But I think because he spoke differently, we don't always recognize when he's intruding into the same conversation we're used to from other contexts, right? So do more of that inclusiveness, and your humanities might find room for some of this design science capability. All right, that's my talk for the day. We'll talk to you soon.